All right, folks, I want to thank you all for sticking around if you made it this far. And I felt this was the only appropriate way to end this show. And of course, that was to discuss the tribute episode to Epiphany. And I'm sure, like a lot of you, it was very, very emotional. Anybody that has ever lost anyone close to them, and I'm sure that's probably mostly everybody, um, it's honestly it's hard for me to find the words right now. For any of you who have watched my show regularly, I don't really script anything out. Everything I say kind of just comes off the top of my head or comes straight from my heart as I'm saying it. And this is no different. So just bear with me here. But I even I sat down the other evening, the day the show aired, and I watched this with my wife, and both she and I were literally sitting there emotional over this. And like I told her, I said it's one thing when they just kill off a character, and like for instance when Britt died, you know that it's just the actress is leaving the show, she's going off to do other things, so they decide to kill off the character. That's one thing, and even then, depending on how the tribute is done for that character, it can get emotional at times. But knowing that Sonya Eddy is gone, I think it just, for me personally, it hit on a totally different level. And I'll admit I'm feeling emotional now just even discussing it, because now I'm going back to the other day and sitting there watching this show. And for so many television shows that you watch, and I know it's this way for me. It's different when it's a show that runs in seasons, if you know what I mean. Like we've got 13 episodes in this season, and then when that season's done, you wait a year for the next season to come on. Um, it's a little bit different then, because you see these characters, you get invested with these characters and these storylines and the writing and everything else, and then it's gone for a while, and you can kind of let it go and decompress and think about other things for close to a year until the show comes back. A show like General Hospital is on every day. This is a part of our daily lives. These characters that we watch and we get involved with and invested in, and yes, at the end of the day, it's entertainment, and what they're doing is, they're just acting, and we get all that. But you still, unless you're just an uncaring individual, when you come across really good characters or storylines, you get involved. Like you invest yourself, you invest your time and your emotion into that. And to me, for somebody like Epiphany, even though she was not on a regular basis, her impact was real. Like the difference she made when she was on that show, when she was on that television screen or the computer screen or your phone screen or however you watched it, it was real. And to me personally, just my opinion, I felt like I was not watching Sonya Eddy play Epiphany. I felt like I was watching Sonya Eddy being Sonya Eddy. Now, I don't know. Maybe that wasn't really her. Maybe she was totally different than her character. But I just feel like, especially for somebody like her who has been in show business for as long as she has, who has done as many things as she has, I'm sure she probably got a good deal of leeway when it came to her character, because she wasn't on all the time. So she didn't really have to stick to or adhere to certain things when it came to her character. She was just bits and pieces here and there. And I just felt like she probably was allowed to let a lot of her personality and real characteristics play into the character. So at least that's what I'm going to go with. I feel like Sonya Eddy in real life was probably very no nonsense. She probably didn't put up with a lot of stuff from people, but I'm going to go away from this feeling like she was probably also just as giving, just as caring, and just as loving as Epiphany was. And to sit there and watch that show Wednesday, especially with all the flashbacks, the character interactions, and then, of course, the very end when Monica is reading that letter to Elizabeth, you can't help but get pulled in. You know what I mean? Like, it's, again, it's hard for me to put into words just exactly how it makes me feel. I'd love to know how it made you feel. Um, but yeah, I mean, I'll admit I'm emotional, and I'm not ashamed or embarrassed to say that, yeah, I felt that way. I felt the same way watching the very end of Sons of Anarchy and what happened to Jax Teller at the very end. Because again, you get invested. You invest yourself emotionally into these shows sometimes. And this was no different. But I think General Hospital did her and her family very well, very proudly, very admirably. And for me personally, I am going to miss seeing Epiphany on my screen. And I think that many of you will as well. So, our hearts are with the Eddy family. Sonya will definitely be missed. So, for me, this show and all the amazing fans out there, Sonya Eddy, Godspeed.